Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the PMI UAE chapter webinar series. I welcome you, all the guests, and our esteemed speakers as well, Mr. Himanshu and Imad today with us. And as a part of the series, we are going to have interesting session about much talked about topic, artificial intelligence, guys. So keep up your seat belts on and be ready for the good ride together. And then we will just let some people come in through. We have 78 or so audience already with us. So quite exciting that we are people joining from different part of the places. So if you don't mind, please, you can keep posting your chats into the chat section. You can introduce yourself and start networking activities if you like to have with other members joining us. And then also you can mention that from where you're from, which part of the countries you're joining up from. That would be a good introduction for the people at the audience level as well. So, yep, I think we will start in a couple of more minutes once we have some more people joining in, coming in through by 7:04 or so. And meanwhile, we have our backend team also with us, Mr. Amir and Pervez with me here, who has been helping us in setting up the things by so far. So hi everyone, Zeba. Hello Zeba from Abu Dhabi. Zeba from Oman, Edwin from Oman. Good. Hello Edwin. Good evening. Welcome to you to this webinar. Normally we have seen in the past webinar series, we have surpassed the numbers and we have been really making a good counts every webinar now. So that's a good sign for the kind of knowledge we are bringing it to the table and also giving opportunity for the peoples to come together and interact it on the productive way. So we will begin in a couple of more minutes officially, but yeah, I think we are reaching 100 or so almost. So let's keep a watch on that. Good evening, Suraj. Good evening, Alexei. So we have some repeated webinar audience also joining us, which is a quite familiar name to me. Thanks for coming and keeping your presence all together with us and give us a support, guys. Thank you so much. I'm seeing some familiar names there. Anish, hello, Basit from Dubai. I think people are also joining from Saudi at times, and we have seen it from different part of the world. Hello, Martin. Hello, John from Abu Dhabi again. Good. So I think we will start the session. We have already reached more than 100 people coming through. They will come in a couple of more minutes, but let me begin officially now from that sake. So welcome everyone again, Maraba, and again, we are welcome here to see our guest also speaking to us today on another interesting topic. On this series of webinar, we have been trying to really inculcate the right kind of mix of the different speakers with us in PMI UAE chapter. And I'm very proud to say that today's topic would be another interesting one, which we're talking about artificial intelligence, and just not artificial intelligence as a buzzword, but practically that how the project delivery is increasing the speed of the value using the AI. So we have our guest speakers with us today, Mr. Himanshu Debral and Imad Al Saik. So they both are coming from the background, which I'm going to introduce them. But I think before I go towards their introduction, my name is Anshul Chaube, if you don't know me by any chance so far, and I'm your moderator tonight about this webinar. And I'm joined by my colleagues at the backend and rest of the event team members as well. So some housekeeping notes, which I would definitely would like to rephrase myself there to keep it handy. So this webinar is going to last a kind of an hour. And we are also expecting a good turnaround with the people interacting with each other. We also have a set agenda that we will go through this introduction of PMI UAE chapter to the people who are joining it first time for that matter. And also we are going to have a core webinar presentation slides with our speakers. And also after that, we will have a Q&A session where I would invite all of you to post your questions in the Q&A part, and I will try to seal them up in some kind of way where Himanshu and Imad can collaboratively try to answer them up and collaborate with each other, with all of us now. So I will do our level best to accommodate all the questions. I hope we have enough time in this hour to post everybody's question. But meanwhile, feel free to post your comments as well there in the chats. So in regard to your questions, what I will do, Imanshu, is that basically I will try to give you heads up around but most probably will not need, because I think most probably we'll have enough time today. But more importantly, let me start with introducing the chapter. So allow me to share my screen first, and let's go through the chapter quick introduction. And from there, we will launch into the introduction of our esteemed speakers. So let me share my screen quickly here. Great. So let me start with the chapter introduction. So we here is a Project Management Institute are the part of the PMI. As we all know, we are being founded by 1969 by the group of project managers in US, of course. Now it's almost 50 years and still up and going with the source and resources, what we have been trying to really manage and to share this all knowledge globally across the different chapters. So we are one of the largest chapters in the top 5 as well. And UAE chapter is having the particular vision, as you can see, to empower and influence the individuals with the right innovative project economy principles, and then turning them into the reality ideas, actually. And how do we do this is by this mission statement, which goes hand in hand with our mission to disrupt and create value driven opportunities to our chapter members, with all of you and the partners, to become much more agile, innovative, and productive in the platform for the growth of project economy. With that matter, this is our chapter and quick introduction, some pictures just to give you a good quick glimpse around. So we are 100% run by volunteers, 3,300 plus. That's quite a big number. Of course, we are proud about that. Quite active chapter members. Particularly, we are into the top 5 in the PMI EMA region. We are focusing on leading industry and trends, and also we are also giving a lot of stuff in terms of knowledge sharing to PMI certified holders. And also we are trying to say that we are all dependent on all of you guys to really make this activities much more enticing and integrating as possible. So keep engaging with us. Our chapter boards, as you might be knowing, so is led by Mr. Adil Sultan as a president, and rest of the board of directors there from the different departments alongside with him. So we have some benefits which we have tried to rephrase and reframe around that. So you can see these benefits of the membership of our chapters are quite a few, just not one. So definitely you have access to the digital library. You have certification discounts if somebody's looking forward to attempt the PMI certifications of any way. We have access to a lot of career navigator and also the standards, templates, tools, also the exclusive member events, which we keep on organizing as a part of events team to our members. And then, of course, access to the projectmanagement.com, which is, again, the plethora of the knowledge lying in itself, and to really take your brain around a different part of the knowledge base sharing. So with these all access, you can see that there are a lot of detailed things, but yeah, these are the important part of the discounts and the PMBOK guide. And this is a quite useful things, guys, to really upskill yourself and to be abreast of all the things around you, as bring as a kind of member benefits there. Special discounts for 30% using the PMI e-learning with the PMI industry as well. So that's something that worth mentioning as well. So we have the tools and template sections where you will see a lot of stuff around there with the digital copies of the different templates and tools. So in terms of the member benefits, we bring enhanced benefits in terms of networking, of course, which we will always an option to network with the people. Also the learning and knowledge sharing with that, how to grow your career in breadth or in length. Also the events. So this event is particularly the important factor because we are doing this diversified webinar under the event pillar over here. Our collaboration partners are listed over the slide. And then if you want to find much more, so then you are always welcome to go to the website of pmiunite.org. Otherwise, the social media channels are always on with upbeating with a lot of marketing content flowing there. So that takes me to the end of the quick introduction over there. And what I will going to do is that let me quickly introduce our speakers. Give me a second. Yeah. So here now, let me introduce our speakers who are joining us today. So Mr. Imad, let me start with him. So he has been enabling organization and leaders to transform their management practices. So what is basically that they're trying to realize the genuine benefits about the strategic initiatives and the outcomes using project portfolio. Imad firmly believes this is the business purpose, what he is up to. And with the past 2 decades of experience, he has led different engagements to access, establish, and optimize tons of the PMOs, TMOs, SMOs, VROs, optimizing their performance and also their mindset changing to best fit frameworks. So based on his accumulative and practical experience, Imad really has authored several management books and articles, which he presented worldwide. And also he is also working with the EY at the Center of Excellence meanwhile. And he's been accompanied by Himanshu. So Himanshu is coming from the diversified background of various internal and client-based initiatives where he handled the application portfolio management, enterprise architecture, project portfolio management, and digital transformation journeys. Also, he's a safe agilist, so coming from the scaled agile side of the things, proven into the business agility and bringing the outcome with these transformation exercises. He also brings a lot of strategic thinking in designing and implementing all result-driven operating models. Also, he has been leading client engagements in projects, programs, portfolio side of the things. He brings a lot of deep experience as well into architecting business processes, which is, of course, my kind of background a bit, but it will be really interesting to see that what knowledge we bring together with these two gentlemen with us. So I will not take much more time from both of them, and I will hand over the floor to Imad and Himanshu. Here you go.
Thank you so much, Anshul. Thank you, and thanks for the whole chapter. Thanks for the whole attendees. Let me start with good afternoon, good evening, and special good morning for my colleague, Himanshu. He is talking to us from another time zone. Thanks, Himanshu, for doing it. Today we have, I believe, interesting question, how the AI, to be more specific, the generative AI will impact the XMOs. And when we say XMO, we mean whatever type of management offices, either project portfolio, strategy, or change management. And actually you can apply what you will hear to any department, not only the management offices. So here with us, we have a lot to share. And usually in these kind of events, I advise the attendees to try to do a couple of things during the event. First, try to stay here and focus now. Listen as if you will present the same content to your colleagues, and also usually ask yourself, how can I implement what I'm listening to, what I'm reading? Next slide, please, Himanshu. So to begin with, what we are presenting today is on our individual capacity, myself and Himanshu. And to start with, and I'm quoting here the famous quote from Simon Sinek, usually start with why. We thought why we are presenting this, and it's important for you to understand the behind what we will present right now. And we brought an old survey from Gartner stating what are the main and the top barriers for adapting either AI or ML or any type of new knowledge. And there were a couple of barriers. I'm highlighting here two main barriers. The first one is the enterprise maturity and the skills of the staff. We believe by the end of this session, you will gain some knowledge which will help you to be one of the skilled staff. And after that, you can transfer this knowledge to the organization wherever you are working. And the second one, and this reminds me of in the world, human usually any of what he doesn't or she doesn't know. So the fear of unknown, if you don't know something, usually you build a resistance against it. So today's session, we believe after you know more, we will refresh some information you have that will help you as well to get or overcome that fear of unknown. If this is the case right now or in the couple last few years, the future and the near future, actually, as per Gartner expectation, they expect that any AI or at least 50% of AI investment should be qualified and linked to KPI to measure the return on investment. If you, as someone who is promoting AI, for example, in your organization, and you cannot qualify it and link it to one of the measurements, I think that will be not a successful case. So again, what we developed as the few slides, I believe it will help you to connect whatever investment, whatever promotion for the AI within your organization to be in a better position and be better marketed to the organization. That's why we will discuss today the journey generative AI, the different capabilities, and how to reimagine the different MOs or the XMOs within after having the AI part of it. And then we will go to a couple of hurdles to adapt this. And we will discuss at the end of the presentation where to go after gaining all this knowledge. With that said, I will leave the floor to Himanshu to walk us through the rest of the slides. Himanshu, please.
Thank you, Mad. All right. So first of all, I'm going to just acknowledge I'm not a technologist. So if there are very deep, AI, ML, or generative AI kind of questions, I'll take that and I can revert back with the answers. But let's dive in. So before we go into the details of different applications of generative AI in this project portfolio and transformation and management offices, I'd like to touch upon how AI has evolved over the last couple of decades. So in 1950s, we saw RAND Corporation, one of the research and development organization, launching a program to mimic the human ability to solve problems. Again, it was a limited scale. But then over the next couple of decades, we saw machine learning techniques come up to develop the expert systems, right? And then as neural network capabilities evolved, machines now were able to make some real-time complex decisions. A good example was IBM's Deep Blue machine challenging or defeating Gary Kasparov, who we know was a long-time world chess champion. Then came the natural language translations model, which became more and more robust and responsive while using the deep learning techniques. Now, we still talked about 2000, that's where the evolution of generative AI came up. It's a specific subset of or a domain within the broader artificial intelligence field of study. But then let's zoom into generative AI, how that evolved. So NLP models started producing better results. Like with large volume of data, we saw those rule-based engine becoming more and more robust in 2000s. That's when the Google Translate came up, which launched which was able to translate words and phrases from one language to the other. So there was a win for this domain. In 2014-15, we saw that NLP models could not just understand and translate words and phrases, but better understand the context of the text. We saw word embedding concepts coming up to translate text into vectors that could then be compared, that could compare the text to each other, right? Then came the machine translators, which could now generate the new sequence of words based on the select prompts. And then from 2017 onwards, we saw that these machine translators grew into like sophisticated neural networks, which I think right now we call them as transformers, and now are available as large language models that can easily talk or converse with end user prompts and generate those relevant content for you. But the key question right now, I'm talking about these things, evolution and so on, what does it mean to us? Like what capabilities these models, such as generative pre-trained transformers, offer us in terms of managing those projects and portfolios and all the transformations. So let's start looking at what those capabilities offer us, right? So if I go to the next slide, very in a rudimentary level, what does Gen AI offer us? It gives us the ability to analyze and create text, images, tables, which basically means that I can look into my unstructured and the structured information and then analyze those things and then come up with relevant content which is useful for the end user. What does that give us? It's a very small thing, but then what does it give us? Well, I can now ingest new information, learn from it, and refine my responses in real time. I can summarize all the large texts, the documents, and research papers and articles, and summarize and create those synopses quickly. I'm not going to go into all of them, but creating product specifications based on all those engineering documents that I have becomes very easy. If I am going in a large project and doing the handover and then creating the procedures, well, I can feed all those information sources and then start to generate those procedural documents easily. Knowledge management becomes more and more easier now. I can say, here's my library of documents, put like a conversational AI on top of it, and I can have the users prompt certain things, and I can get those insights, relevant insights now, relatively very easy. So it just opens up doors for many new things that we can do in the PPM space or a transformation management space. All right, so then let's talk about project and portfolio management. How is it really is relevant for us, right? So traditionally, we all know that we are involved in different functions, like we track financials, right? We take the invoices, and as a PMO offices, we look at the expenses. We also look at, okay, what are the business requirements that we have? Are we delivering as per those requirements? And it's a lot of these times we are collecting inputs from many points of contact, and that takes away. Nothing bad about it. It's that has been how we have been operating in these offices. It's just a matter of collecting all the information, but the real value comes and when I have assimilated that information from multiple sources, and now I'm trying to help organization make better decisions when it comes to executing this versus the other. So that's that. Then when you talk about the larger transformations, we start with building roadmaps. We are saying, here we have multiple value streams. Here's how I'm going to execute. This is my roadmap. And but tracking the progress in real time against this roadmap is not so easy. Then defining value, yes, we do that today for those transformations, but making decisions based on the current progress against value is not so easy. Constantly assessing the impact of changes, dependencies, external risks that we have, and then making those better decisions with the cross-functional teams in the last transformations. We know that it takes a lot to make it happen, right? We create generally like multiple tiers of governance to make it happen. So then the question comes is with the evolution of AI, and especially when generative AI becoming more and more robust, what opportunities does this offer us, right? Then so for tomorrow, right? If let's suppose this AI models becomes more robust and generative AI can now be adopted, what opportunity does it offer? Well, we could be at the forefront of analyzing the state of the business, work together with the cross-functional teams better, and do it more efficiently rather than spending more time on trying to gather information sources, and then looking more at project operations, streamlining operations. Not that it's not important, it is, but can we do it more efficiently? So those are the questions that we can ask ourselves. For transformation management, right? We can have a similar story, right? Generative AI can make better decisions, or at least give us options to consider when we are evaluating all the dependencies within and externally as well. Larger transformation will require multiple interfaces with both internally within the organization, across geographies, with different vendors, all of it. It's a more complicated or complex environment. So how can I use generative AI to, give us our information in a more structured way, but also give us those scenarios, right, where I should be considering to make better decisions, and then work more closely with the business to drive those outcomes. And there is a Gartner report that says that by 2030, 80% of the work of project management, today's project management discipline, could be transformed, right? And as AI takes on more of those traditional responsibilities of data collection, tracking, and reporting, just those three things, and you would say 80% of the work could be transformed completely. Now, this sounds to me as a tremendous opportunity for this function to transform and then move up the chain in delivering value for the business, rather than, and some people may take it in the other way, saying, oh, it's AI is going to take our job. But no, I think if we upskill better in a more structured and an organized way, it gives us better opportunity for these functions to make a direct impact and deliver more value to the organization. And we are seeing some latest trends, right? So in the terms of those changes are happening. If you look at some of those project portfolio management tools or the process mining tools, they are starting to build like a conversational AI on top of it, so that you can post some relevant queries to that AI layer, and then start to make those decisions. So those multiple scenarios could be accounted for, and then you can make better decisions. These are some of the leading indicators of what could happen in future. All right, so we talked about the possibilities. And the next couple of slides will take you through a couple of scenarios for project, the PMO, the portfolio management office, and the transformation management office. Now, you could argue like, some of those PMO scenarios could be applicable to the TMO scenarios. Yes, it does. But we want to talk you through some of the scenarios where Gen AI could make an impact. And based on our experiences and what we are learning, these are the possibilities. How exactly it will happen, it needs to be vetted out. But some of the capabilities and the technical insights that we have gathered so far, these are possible scenarios. Those are extrapolations of what we have gathered so far from our experiences. And then obviously as Gen AI takes, I would say, gets implemented in different parts of the organizations, you would see these use cases will start to emerge for these PMO or the XMOs, the offices as well. All right, let's start with the project management office. I'm doing a quick check on time. All right, I think we are doing good. So some of the first scenario that I want to talk about is for let's pick a construction industry, and we know that industry is like a heavy capex driven industry, right? So understanding that industry dynamics is important. You're really talking about billions of dollars of projects. with multiple vendors involved there, contractors involved there. So it's a very heavy kind of industry where these processes, the project management processes are super important. So let's talk about schedule management, right? So typically you would see that the huge work packages are built, the schedule is created, and then you realize, okay, the contractors, multiple contractors are alerted of the work packages. They understand what needs to be delivered. And then you think about, well, one of the contractors completed part of the work packages, but realize, oh, some of the material was missing, and hence there could be delays. And you also realize, oh, some of those team members are taking unplanned leaves. So what does that do to my schedule? Well, the PM can go and update the resource plan. But then what impact will it have in the overall project? What are the downstream impact? That is something, if I feed in the schedules and the contractor's plan and the initial work package schedule to the GPT through my prompts, it can now give you the impact of what possible impact will it have downstream for other work packages. So that we know from our prior experience, this use case is viable for Gen AI to make those impact. And then once we have done the assessment, now the PMs can go and update those changes and communicate those changes. Some part of those communication can also be automated through Gen AI. So that's one scenario for project management. The other one is like simply put project operations. If I am trying to bid for a scope of work, I would first say, what are the different work packages that I need the contractors to bid for? I'll use existing RFQ templates and then have Gen AI build that RFQ for that scope of work. The contracting manager and the PMs can say, okay, let me analyze the past performances of the relevant contractors for this piece of work. And then I can now, at the time of bidding, I can analyze those bids based on certain selected criteria. Gen AI can produce a report. And then, the contractors start to execute their piece of work. Then I can use the AI to compile that information, and using Gen AI, I can produce a report that validates the invoice and the process payments and then processes the payment. Now, obviously, it's not just generative AI that's going to do this. We'll have to apply the traditional machine learning techniques in certain cases, a lot of other visualization tools that needs to be integrated with the Gen AI applications. But Gen AI has a role to play in some of these scenarios. Okay. I'll move on to the next one, which is portfolio management space. This is a very common one. I mean, when I'm trying to manage the demand or the intake for my portfolio, I would first know what are my different portfolios, what's my intake process for the new demand coming in. I have my roadmaps built. Now the PMs could use generative AI to build those initial schedule. And then once they know what the work needs to be done, they have their demand profile created. Then the resource managers are informed of the demand. Now, all you have to do is run some optimization algorithms to say, for this portfolio, I can match this demand from my current organization. Here are my gaps. And it could be a regular AI for the optimization engine, but then the generative AI could then be used to run the impact analysis of any changes, to say, okay, let's feed in the initial plan, and how do I keep my resource allocation more optimal, feed the initial data sets to this, to generative AI as a prompt. And what it does is it helps you with identifying the impacts, and then be able to help the resource managers and the PMs adjust their demand profiles or or the capacity profiles, all of this at the same time. So it creates a more, it gives you a tool to negotiate between the two roles. I'm not going to go into the details of the value management, but similar thing could be done when I'm tracking the KPI metrics on the dashboard. I can feed in, I can think about 3 or 4 data sets that I can feed to generative AI, like the cost data set, the KPIs that you've identified for your transformation, for your portfolios. And then we know that there's Copilot coming up, right? So can I use Copilot with Power BI to first analyze my data sets, my incoming data sets, and then use Power BI to visualize the what if scenarios. What if I reduce my overall costs or my budget? What impact can it have on my benefit levers? All right. Then the next is about the transformation management office. I want to zero in on this dependency maps a little bit more than the other scenario. So we know that for larger transformations, especially in oil and gas, we know there has been a lot of back office transformation happening, like all across the different business segments, be it upstream, midstream kind of companies, or the IOCs. We know that's happening across the board. And in those large transformations, you could see there are multiple value streams, and then multiple applications are deployed to support those value streams. So anytime you're trying to move to, let's say, S/4HANA, those kind of platforms, and you move away from your legacy apps, it requires a considerable amount of work to understand the current landscape. What are the dependencies? If you switch off these set of applications, what impact will it have downstream? And then justifying that the large scale transformations in terms of here are the benefits. It requires a considerable amount of analysis on those interdependencies between your projects that you have outlined, your applications, your assets, and make sure that as you transform, you're accounting for all of those things, and then realize as you shut down all the applications, you have a path forward to analyze the benefit impact incrementally. So how can Gen AI help in this scenario? Well, I can ingest all my projects data, my applications data, and asset data per value streams. I can beef up the information about the value stream using generative AI itself. Now I have like those information model created for my transformation. Now I can let the generative AI run and then identify what are the possible dependencies. So it cannot create the dependency maps. It doesn't have that Gen AI capability, but it can create the information in that specific structured way so that I can feed that information to other visualization tools to create those dependency maps. And then I can say, okay, if something changes in my applications, then can I do the what if scenarios? We know that Power BI today can also have those probabilistic models to say, within this range, this can happen. So I can use some of these tools to perform the what if analysis. And then based on the analysis, I can have a good catalog of those dependency risks that the value stream leads and the transformation leads can work together to manage them more effectively. Yeah, so the business case one was something when we thought about this was interesting. A lot of the times when you are trying to build the business case or manage the business case for this transformation, you really need to have a good starting point. You have a bunch of potential initiatives launched. You have the benefit levers for each of those defined. And then you could then now aggregate some of the information. It need not be generative AI. It could be a a traditional initial model or a report, which basically says, here are the different benefit scenarios for all the value streams. But then how do I communicate it, right? I can create like with all the information that I have created for my transformation, I can have like a chatbot on top of this information sources, and then say, let that chatbot help you communicate to the rest of the organization. That's one way. So the chatbots could be trained to say, okay, what's changing? And then it can also help you with develop the as-is and the to-be personas, and then help you with the impact assessments. And again, we're talking about large-scale back office transformation, multiple roles, and the personas will be impacted. So how do I communicate that? And then I believe the chatbot is one way to have that mechanism for people to go in and get that information. Obviously, you'll have to train that chatbot. You have to give the right information so that it could, and what they call it is retrieval augmentation or something like that. That way you can create the boundaries within which the Gen AI can think. Otherwise, there are issues with generative AI. It starts to hallucinate and starts to create information which may not be relevant. That's something to be mindful about. But as long as what we are seeing is, as long as you're putting bounds and you're feeding information within the bounds, it gets reasonably good information about reasonably good outputs. That's what we are seeing today. All right, so these are possible scenarios how generative AI could make an impact. Again, these are possible scenarios what we feel could make an impact in these offices. It's to be explored. Again, based on our experiences, we are extrapolating how those capabilities could be leveraged and then help transform. And I would say transform and make these offices more productive and value driven. So, all right. So the next 2 slides, just want to cover about 2 things, and then we can open it up. What barriers do we see right now of how we can enable generative AI for XMOs? Well, the first thing is the tools and data. The data analytics tools needs to be robust. We know the machine learning techniques are robust enough, which is good, but still evolving and becoming more powerful. And the Gen AI tools, they are still emerging together. And then if we want to use the applications that leverages this capability altogether, we need to make sure that they're working hand in hand. Like Copilot, we know is happening today, but does the visualization tool supports all this information from coming out of those new the Gen AI based tools. We also need to recognize that interpreting data coming from Gen AI will still require human in the loop. So that is not going away. The challenge over here is how many of us can really interpret the information coming out of Gen AI in a way that it could be useful for making business decisions. So that needs to be accounted for as you roll out new tools and data. Role, skills, talent. We talked about this. Well, obviously we're not skilled, or we're still learning about Gen AI and so on. So the roles and the skills would need to be upgraded. Human to Gen AI interface, that needs to be managed and trained well, so that we can do a better job at interpreting information coming out of Gen AI and making more informed decisions, right? When Gen AI hallucinates, when it does not, that is still is up to the discretion of individuals who are looking at this information from coming out of Gen AI. But it is powerful. So then the talent and the hiring strategy needs to be thought through. Trusting AI output, we talked about that, will require some diligence from the organization. Since AI is pre-trained, it has information from multiple sources. So what are those ethical boundaries when you apply the data? There are data privacy concerns that could happen as well. I can crawl through all the data from on the database, public database, but then does it violate some of those ethical boundaries? That's also something to be looked into. The collaboration, how did we collaborate earlier and manage all the interfaces between the vendors and contractors and so on would change. And but what would that look like? How do we transcend all those organizational boundaries or cross-functional boundaries? I think that is also going to be significant. And very quickly, if you just apply all of these things to each of these offices, PMOs, if you don't have a standard PM processes, obviously this is not going to work. Data assets. If I don't have data, if you're still working all the documents, it's harder to apply generative AI. Yes, it can work on documents, and I can have a conversational AI on top of those documents that works. But I cannot apply the traditional AI techniques if I don't have data in the organization. Portfolio, again, if I don't know how my projects are structured, if I don't have a sound portfolio process to manage these projects, I cannot have all of these portfolio management processes enabled using this Gen AI. What are those centralized infrastructure that I would need? If those are not available, then I cannot roll up information from tools, from the projects, and that requires us common tools, data, and processes. And again, if I look at all of these, if I look at TMO, the things that we just talked about are PMOs and the portfolio management office applies to TMOs as well. It's just that the problem gets more compounded as we start to look into the TMOs. Because we have more number of interfaces to manage, we probably are looking at the projects executing across the geographies, might require vendors in different parts of the world. So having that coordination with the central data analytics and the cross-functional teams becomes super critical. And in absence of that, applying the generative AI is not going to work, because ultimately we are bubbling up the informations and analytics and those capabilities up at the highest level. All right. So then the last thing to think about is, how do we take the current trends? How do we take the current capabilities and emerging capabilities of generative AI? And as an organizations, what can we think about, right? What can we do? The first thing is, yes, generative AI can work with documents. We are working on certain cases where we are looking at documents, but we are deconstructing those documents into data. So that's why data is an asset. If you're not there in the journey in certain sectors, then what you have to think about is, what does that data profile look like for a given organization context? Can I master my data so that I can increase what trust on my data and the sources? Can I have a governance to maintain the data integrity? And then can I create like a common and integrated processes with data as the backbone? If you have that, then we say data is an oil, but then the oil has to flow. Then it makes more sense. So then it becomes more valuable. Generative AI or traditional AI or other machine learning techniques will become more valuable. So how do we do it is a question, right? And then what we are seeing is large corporations are trying to set this up as a capability in itself. Yes, they are capability teams for machine learning and then data analytics, but now they are starting to think about, okay, how do I absorb this, treat this as a capability, generative AI as a capability for the entire organization, right? So do I have the right infrastructure? Because data privacy and those concerns becomes super critical, right, for organizations. So having a trusted infrastructure becomes paramount. Am I increasing awareness of generative AI tools to upskill my organization? If not, think about right skills to support the future need. And then there has to be a more organized way of growing up the curve, which is how can I identify the relevant use cases, which gives me the most value? How do I learn better? How do I incubate those use cases? How do I pilot in the projects and then start to scale for when it's ready, when those use cases are ready, start to scale for one of those XMOs. So as an organization, right, if we go back and start to look at internally within the organizations where you work, the best way to learn is understand what publicly available conversational AIs are offering us, like, ChatGPT. But it's not just like you pose your questions, you get the answers. Yes, you can, but you need to understand the broader capabilities what this GPT model offers us, right? How can there's a separate discipline coming up around prompt engineering. The more you can bound your prompts, the better will be the responses. And then you can have that conversation. The whole back and forth happening with these trained models can be extracted in an app and then put in like an application format, and then you can use it for many uses. It's a very simple thing, but to understand how this really is working is super critical. So start with those basic things, and really the speed to value is all about, can I build a smaller conversational AIs on my libraries of document? It's a simple use case that I can do. Like in large construction sectors, you have like tons of documents that you have to go through, and nobody can do it. No one person can find that answers, because the answers to the questions might be embedded like in one such document, and no one, only a specific person can answer questions there. So building that, the conversational AI on top of it and how it really works, what are the gotchas, learn from that experiment, start there. I think that's the easy, the low-hanging fruit there. But then after that, you can start to expand in some of the other scenarios we discussed, and then build those portfolio of use cases. The one way to be is like create like a innovation portfolio and drive that portfolio, multiple use cases, test it out and see. And then when you start to launch it across the organization, take the ones which has been proven right. So it's all about like learning, experimenting, and then deploying those use cases. At the same time, most paramount thing is you protect your data assets. So for that, how do you work with your IT and then make sure you create those right bounds? In certain cases, you could say some of this use cases could be very private to the organization, to a certain segment. So bound it. Certain cases, it could be very much open. So again, these are some of the things that as an organization, you can start to think about, take it back and start to see how you can, bring back this, develop this into a capability for your organization. And we are seeing this like across different sectors and organizations, that slowly organizations are seeing a ton of value. But obviously this value is not realized. It's still to be tested. But they're sensing something changing and evolving in the near future. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, Himanshu and Mad. I think we have a lot of questions. Of course, I'm just piling them up. I see quite of them are being posted into Q&A section by our audience. So I know that you have to leave for a certain next engagement on time. So keeping that in mind, we have a couple of 5 or 6 minutes, Himanshu, there. So what I would like to figure it out, that a few questions are here. So first to start with is, for example, is that we have been talking about these use cases and how this capability value driven thing can happen. A lot of talk is happening around the the trust and confidentiality of AI, about sensitivity. You touched in the last part itself, how to bound your use cases around that. So sensitive information being handed over to AI. So I think the question is that how we trust the confidentiality of AI, actually, in a very layman term, if I put it through. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so initially the way the approach that we are taking is like you really have to rely on your SMEs at the beginning. You cannot trust the data or the outputs if your bounds that you're putting in around generative AI is not correct, it will start to hallucinate. It will give you some information as if like it's right, but you you can't trust it. So the best way to do it is that's why we recommend the human in the loop. We say let's analyze the outputs for maybe you can have like a parallel process where keep the ball running as it is, but then have those validations, ongoing validations going on with your subject matter experts. And then if you find that that the results are looking good, I would start to incrementally roll it out in larger and larger capacity. But then all the time as I roll out and make it wider, I will also put more and more bounds in my prompts, in the inputs that I'm going to feed to the Gen AI. Because the more broader you're going to make it, the more chances you might not get the right result. So I'm going to put more bounds and then start to incrementally roll out with the SMEs.
Okay, good. So another question is from Zida is that how does strong AI differ from weak AI? That's an interesting one. So how does the differentiate weak and
If you
strong AI?
allow to me, Anshul, what I understand, the meaning of strong AI is the unlimited AI or unlimited purpose AI, and the weak one is customized and focused only on one topic or one subject, and maybe one sector. So I think the difference here is the purpose of the AI model you have. So again, if you a couple of weeks, I believe the ChatGPT published a new generation of the ChatGPT, the enterprise more specifically, where you can have your own ChatGPT module and specified for you. You can feed whatever data, even if you like to feed the PMPOC or whatever standard you have, and the generative AI will digest this information. Once you ask any question related to any of this content, they can reply to you. So this will be focused only on the PMO or project management. And the more data and knowledge you feed, the better chances for better answers. So this is the main difference, as per my understanding, the difference between the strong and the weak AI.
Thank you, Mr. Imad, for answering that particular one. So since you touched about standard, and so the similar question is coming from quite a few people. Shitiza and Rob is also interested into the similar kind of question. So let me rephrase them up wrap it up into one, if I can now. So what kind of standard or the kind of certification, for example, for the PMs, you have the PMP as a kind of Bible there, right? For example, so for the AI, are you people are seeing it any kind of roadmap around the kind of standard being created, which people in the AI can follow through as a kind of benchmarking against? Any ideas with that you're foreseeing or you're aware about?
Well, there is one certificate is being spread all over the place by PMI, the Generative AI introduction. I believe this is, I think it's for free. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that is free one.
Maybe,
yeah,
this is a free one. And I think the more we go into this area, maybe Google, maybe Microsoft will offer similar certificates. I'm not aware myself about the something official with a real exam and real preparation. I'm not aware of that. Maybe if you or Imanshu is aware, please chime in.
Imanshu, you want to add anything?
I think I don't have any specifics on this. and we can go back and check, but I know that every practitioners in different industries are thinking about this. So if it's not happening, if it's not there, it will come in the next 6 months. The trend and the pace at which this is moving is very, very fast.
Yes.
It's catching fire right now, fire. It's like that. So it will come. It will come. It will impact many sectors. It will impact many functions. How we do things, how we work in day-to-day lives, that is getting impacted. So I have to say that if PMI or Scale Agile or those others are not thinking about it now, it will come in the near future. I can think of several examples in the Scale Agile can use this, right? So this capability. So
yeah, sure. I think I don't know whether you are still having enough time, Himanshu, to answer.
Yeah, we can take and continue for 5 more minutes if that's okay.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for giving me that up. So you see any kind of one question is that from Suraj is I can seeing around is that do you see any project management software in the near future? We see it in product design domain, but in the project management community, need to have some kind of standardization framework, which we can use GNAI constructively. But you give example of oil and gas, you give example of construction, you give example of value creation in PMOs and TMOs. But I think more importantly is there that people are still into that, as you said, into that frame of mind where the belief and the trust is really at the stake, because people have a lot of apprehensions around is it right or is it wrong or is it in between. I think that feelings are still prevailing because, as you said, it's a fast moving pace now. So any thought you want to share on this aspect?
Yeah, so I was there in one of the conference for a company that manages or rolls out a process mining tool. Now imagine those process mining tools working for a larger backend transformation, right? As for HANA kind of migration. So what they are rolling out is this generative AI layer on top of this, their current capabilities and how they produce the process models and how they mine the transactions and all of that. So they have come up with this module where I can, as different analysts for a specific value stream, I can pose questions and they can mine those transactions and then say, okay, here is the impact. And so they started to come up with those modules and those platforms. I think I have not checked the other PPM tools. Like I would say the cloud-based tools like Monday or others are going to get more traction with this kind of capability. They'll start to adopt more of those. But how do they train? How do they train their models for that will be aligned to their data structure? It's up to them, right? It has to be bounded by their platform, how they're capturing information. And then you can run this, and that bound is good because then I am looking at data that has been generated by those people using the platform. So it's a real data. So that's one kind of a bound that you have already created. And now you're applying those generative AI techniques to respond to the queries, and then it will start to see the relationships. If there is a structured data set which has got relationship, there are better chances of giving better results. If it's an unstructured data set and it's unsupervised learning, I think that's where we have more chances of things going haywire.
Absolutely.
And again, these are my extrapolations of how things are evolving. But that example that I gave you, I was there in that the conference where they rolled out the beta version of that feature of putting in that generative AI on top of their current platform.
Good. So another interesting question.
Just to add one.
Yeah, sorry, Imad, go ahead.
Sorry, just to add one thing here. I believe Microsoft announced recently that they have what is called Copilot user experience.
Copilot, yes. Copilot.
Yeah. So that Copilot, I think this is an example for AI, which will be embedded within more and more Microsoft products. And I think that will come soon to MS Project if we are talking about project management tool more specifically. Yeah.
So Imad,
Yeah.
just interestingly,
Yeah.
is that one person, Imad, has himself asked another question, that how do you protect individual excellence with AI? So, so that's more of a kind of human element with it now. Any thought, Imad, to another Imad?
Well, I think, again, this is a new technology. We still have a lot of doubt about it. And we will not get the maximum benefit out of it unless we believe in it. We understand that there will be some fraud and breaches. We need to understand that and tackle it. Similar to any new technology appeared in any certain moment. Usually it comes with a lot of threats. The day we get mature dealing with it, the less threats we will face, but it will remain somehow. So thinking of AI as tool is the best way, and this is actually this is what we are trying to do. Imagine it as if it is Excel, and instead of doing that multiplication and dividing using your hand and paper and a pencil. Now you have system, and instead of going to Google and keep searching for certain information, now you just go and ask the ChatGPT, and it will go and search and find the best search result for you. This is how we need to change our mind toward the AI in general. Please.
One of the things that AI does, generative AI is, to me, is helping is when it recommends something, it gives you the confidence scores, because everything is probabilistic, right? In these kind of models, and it will tell you like 60%, 50%, and it will give you the reason why it is saying 50%, 60%. It's up to the individual to say, analyze and say, yes, I think this makes sense, move on, it's the right interpretation. We're doing this right now. To test this, we are looking at, okay, SMEs, go and look into this reason. Does it make sense? And in certain cases, you would find that AI has done a better job than the SMEs, because the SMEs never thought about that. So it is, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but then you also have to be mindful that it's going to unearth something which, as humans, we did not think about, or it's not there in your system. So it's, but then as it gets the strong AI, right, that you talked about, it has a capability to learn, right? So it will learn, and when it has understood your context better, you will start to see your confidence scores on the outputs are going to increase further.
Yeah, no, I think very well said, Dimanshu. I think I totally see from where you're coming, because the more and more we try to think it in a way like in a box where you are competing with something which is collective learning, which is going through transpiring through a constant phase of reinforcement of the contextual ideas, and then trying to overcome your intellect to a point where you started thinking, hey, hold on, I never give it a thought about it, what actually the point is, but is it right or wrong is a different concept, but at least it is going to give you that insight. Yeah, I think this is also a possibility. That's where the risk management will also come into the great evolvement around it. And even the life sciences, the discovery areas, I think with the collective knowledge of a lot of people putting the data, definitely it's not 100% accurate, but it will open the avenues of the human mind to possibilities that, I think these kind of use cases also can go through and can give you new business ideas from there as well.
Yeah, and that's why treating data as an asset becomes super critical. Like if you have my data, creating that data, right, for the organization is as to how you operate. I mean, some of the organizations are thinking about it, right? If I can digitize my whole, how I operate, all those templates and documents that I have, if I can digitize that, build the relationships between them, then these AI machines can quickly understand the cross references, and the results that you get are much better versus I have a bunch of these documents. I don't know how they interrelate. It's all unstructured. Obviously, don't expect miracles there. It will take some time to learn, and then and then adapt and give you better results.
100% agree. I think well said. I think this was a great conversation to interact with the guys. I think we are already 8:10 now, so we will not be able to drag it up more, unfortunately. So we are going to close webinar tonight, but I would like to thank to both of you, Imad and Himanshu, to bringing out your expert level of comments and your thought process around it, to sharing your knowledge with the audience with us. I would also like to give a good shout out to our friends and marketing team who has been responsible for posting all this event and webinar information to social media and onto the PMI UI website. Also, the chapter volunteers, I think we are the people who are making this event successful with all these webinars, with volunteering and outreach and finance membership teams. So finally, I am going to say goodbye to all of you guys. And then this slides and something which you want to get sharing about, I think this can be shared with the recordings will be shared with you, the YouTube channel of the PMI, as well as the other LinkedIn post as well. You will see it from there. So you can pick it up from that as well. So I think we are here to close up formally. And then thank you so much to Amir behind the camera, and Parvez and the events team. And this Anchal, wishing you a pleasant evening ahead and seeing you next time for the next webinar there. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.
Good night.